The calm before the storm, Los Angeles, California, the night before the knockout stage begins of the 2026 FIFA World Cup Finals. We will shortly head to beautiful Southern California and join Christian Jack. We'll also have former CPL head coach and proud South African Canadian Alan Koch join the program today. We're joined by James and Ames. That's Amy Walsh and Jimmy Brennan. We're excited. There's just 2 matches remaining in the group stage at the World Cup, and nearly the entire bracket is set. The 2 exceptions, Spain, who are on Canada's side of the bracket, are awaiting their opponents, as are the Swiss on the other side. You'll see that Canada are tucked into a corner with Germany, Paraguay, France, Sweden, the Dutch, and Morocco. Portugal also confirmed to be playing at Toronto Stadium. My goodness, what a day that will be in the city. The US, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Belgium and Senegal also confirmed after the Belgians' big win last night over New Zealand. So today, Canada, of course, met with the media, match day -1, and there was a surprise guest joining Jesse Marsch up on the podium. It was Alphonso Davies. Here is Jesse Marsch now on Alphonso's recovery and what he could bring back to the squad.
You know, when Alphonso had mentioned that he wanted to bring a personal trainer to help in his rehabilitation, I was fully supportive of it, and I think it's really important, especially when you're the level of athlete that Alphonso is, having somebody who knows specifically what the demands of your body are, and I think he's been a huge help to Alphonso, and we see him now in great form and great fitness, so I think he's more than ready for tomorrow. He's a big X factor for us because he's such a big talent. He's very explosive in transition moments. He's also a good footballer, so the things that we can do, whether, and again, we've talked about using him from the left back position, which I've done more primarily with him, but then maybe also using him in the midfield, and even when we use him at left back, to really make sure that we're using him in an attacking manner so that we get the most out of him defensively and attacking wise. So there's a lot of dynamic qualities that he brings to the team that make us even better. But even more so, what I've said to him is the effect that he will have on the team being on the pitch, the belief they have in him, the belief he has in himself, I think changes the possibility of what the potential of our team is and what we can do in this tournament. So the whole idea was, can we get stronger as the tournament goes on? And as the opponents start to get tougher and tougher and the moments get bigger and bigger, how can we have our best players available, and how can we now be ready to perform at our best? And that's where we are right now.
Joining us from Manhattan Beach is Christian Jack, live on location, powered by General Mills. KJ, on the beach right now, or at least in the vicinity. Earlier today, he was in the room for that press conference, KJ. We were all a bit surprised to see Alphonso Davies as one of the player representatives. The mood around the room, from what you heard from those 2 gentlemen, what were your big takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway here from Los Angeles today was that the pieces started to come together around this puzzle. You know, it's been a puzzling time for Canadian fans around the availability of Alphonso Davies, their captain, around the decoys by their head coach, Jesse Marsch, and often understanding whether there's clarity or a lack thereof. Today, I think we started to see that clarity was coming together, and I think there was no more hiding. And look, we'll find out more in the truth in the last 32 game if he does end up playing, but I think it was pretty clear now we've come through the group stages that a lot of the things that we've reported on this station for some time were actually the way that it was going to be. You know, Alphonso Davies said we've had a pretty, plan that we've executed pretty perfectly ever since we talked about it back before the squad was announced. Jesse Marsch said today that there was never really going to be a chance. It was very unlikely to see him playing in that group stages. He then went on to say afterwards that, you know, he has then hit those medical thresholds that he hadn't hit just 4 days earlier. So the biggest takeaway for me that was, unless we're all being duped by Jesse Marsch, is that it looks like Alphonso Davies will return to the pitch and the stadium where it all ended for him, you know, 462 days ago for Canada in the Nations League, and he did speak a little bit about that as well. So for me, Amy, I think there's just a general excitement. I don't think it was a time anymore for anybody kind of deceiving anybody. I think Canadian fans read that press conference and watched it and thought, you know, he's going to play at some point in the game tomorrow, and we'll find out when that is.
Yeah, excitement for sure. I think that's what is to be emphasized here. But to your point about clarity, I think on the inside, and we'll never really know, but I think there was never a doubt about what the plan was. You know, things may shift slightly, but it was the caginess and the gamesmanship to the outside world, whether that was media, pundits, fans. I think on the inside, there's always been a course that they've stayed on and they've had to adapt in discussions with the medical team. But to know now that they have a player, dynamic was a word that Jesse Marsch used. I mean, it's used to describe this team's style of play, but it epitomizes Alphonso Davies, and he is a game changer for this team. So if they can drop him in for 20 minutes, it will give everybody, as you alluded to, a collective lift. So I think just to have that awaiting them tomorrow when they must bring their very best, to know that they have that waiting in the wings could be transformative for this team.
I think behind the scenes as well, I think that coaching staff had some confidence about this team, thinking we're getting out of this group stage. We've got enough quality here. We've got good players. We're at home. And if we can rest Alphonso Davies through this group stage, get through, well, the round of 32 is when we're going to see him. Now, don't get me wrong. I said it's important that we see him in the group stage to see how he handles himself. But if he's met his targets and he's ready to go, then I expect to see Alphonso Davies at least 20, 30 minutes in this game against South Africa, because the importance of him being there, what he brings to this team, we need him. And it's important that everybody gets to see Alphonso Davies because he is key to this team as well.
Well, you know, he is absolutely champing at the bit to get back onto the pitch. It's been since March of last year since we have seen Davies play for his country. We've heard from his coach on what this recovery has been like, the coordination with Bayern Munich. What about the captain himself, in his own words, on the recovery and how hard it's been to watch from the touchline?
At the beginning of the injury, I think Canada and Bayern, we sat down together. We made a plan of how it's going to look over the next few weeks during the tournament, and I think we're executing that perfectly. It's only been good communication from both sides and open communication. Obviously, it was painful. The only thing you want to do is play football. That's what I'm really passionate about, and I think the first game, watching it, I was eager to get on the pitch. Second game, even more so, and obviously the third game, I went to him before the game. I asked him, do you think I can get a couple minutes? Obviously, he could have said, yeah, we just throw you in there. But obviously, he cares about me and the team, and as human beings as well. So he sat me down and said, listen, you haven't gone through your progressions to get back on the pitch and in game. So I thought about it, and I said, he's right. It's kind of hard to hear, but yet again, I was on the sidelines. Obviously, anything I want to do is to play football and to help contribute on the pitch, and also off the pitch. But it was hard to watch those 3 games, but I fought through it for sure. I think there's no really challenge. I think it's just, obviously we play sports. Injuries are bound to happen, and yet again, you always have these little tweaks and stuff. And I think the best thing you can do is, obviously go in the gym and, try to fix, or do, extra work in the gym or stuff like this. But for me, especially when you have 3 hamstrings injury back to back, definitely your confidence starts going a bit. You start overthinking, whether I should push or do something that's gonna, trigger it. But yet again, if you start thinking like that, then it's bound to happen. If you just go on the pitch and play with a free head, then who knows?
Well, one of the great shames of this World Cup is that we will not have seen the superstar face of the Canadian men's national team play in Canada. But KJ, when we think about legacy, for a player who's seemingly ready to come back in and play whatever part he's able to in potentially winning a first ever knockout round match, what that could do for his story, for his teammates' story, for this sport in our country. How much of an impact do you think he can realistically have? We don't know how many minutes he's cleared for and how Jesse Marsch plans on using him, but just to have him back and available in earnest for a change, what could that mean for this team?
Well, there was an interesting moment in the press conference where a U.S. reporter asked Jesse Marsch about the availability of Alphonso Davies. At one point, he said, "Can he start?" And Alphonso Davies just laughed and said, "Start." And it wasn't, no one was really looking at him. It was almost like a scene out of a sitcom where this guy in the quiet corner just said that one word and everyone started howling. And amongst the press, we kind of got our answer to the fact that, no, he's not going to start. But the fact that he's going to be involved at all, I think, is special, and I think it's needed. It not only lifts the players, it lifts the Canadian national team on the verge of a historic moment here. Let's be honest, you know, they've got a lot of work to be done here, and we're going to get to that later. But in many ways, if this goes the right way and these scenes and these images are seen for decades upon decades, then it feels right that Alphonso Davies needs to be in the middle of that and can at some point participate on the field and make a contribution. I expect him to get on the field late in the game. Obviously, it's going to be scenario based. There's been some discussion here about what if the game is tied and they've got extra time? Does he have to see whether he's got the legs in him to do that? Because if you put him on in the 70th or 65th, for example, in a scoreless tie, then also all of a sudden you're looking at him playing an hour. So I think they're going to have to be managing that. But all in all, it just feels like it's the right time for Alphonso Davies to come in. And speaking to the players, there is a lift, undoubtedly. You know, Alphonso Davies is the captain, and as Jesse Marsch has said, he's called him the best player. This team has proven since March of 2025, in many ways, a lot of areas where they didn't really need him. But this is a World Cup, and they need him, and they're going to get him back at the right time.
Jimmy, is the timing right?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, this is the biggest game in the history of this organization, and to have Alphonso Davies, arguably the best Canadian player ever, who's won Champions Leagues, who's won Bundesligas, captain of Canada, you know, this is just another bit of history for Alphonso Davies. And if we can get him on that pitch and he can contribute and get us success and get us to that round of 16, his legacy is just going to go even higher than what it already is.
Amy, you agree?
Yes, I do agree. I don't want to be that person because I do feel like I'm a perennial glass half full type of person, and the timing is right to have Alphonso Davies back. But just to hear him talk about his own journey to recovery, there's also the mental piece, the psychological piece. And to be in that camp, you know, since the friendly started, meeting the team out in Edmonton, there's been a lot of demands put on him to play that role when he's not an active participant on the pitch. And I've been there. Not necessarily as captain of the women's side, but I've been there playing a prominent role and been injured and coming back and trying to find your way, figure out how to lead in a different capacity. So whether he gets 20 minutes or he gets 25 minutes or 10 minutes and he contributes to extra time if this game gets to that point and he has to step up and take a penalty shot, I think that there's a lot of pressure we're putting on him now, and we maybe have to measure our expectations a little bit. We just think about performance, and I think he will ultimately lend so much to this team, but I also think we give him a little bit of grace because he's been put in a difficult position as the face and as the best player on this team.
Well, an international sport, football no exception, the Olympics as well, probably a word you hear in this space more than any other space is quadrennial. You build in these 4-year cycles for this big moment where the stakes couldn't be higher. That's tomorrow. There is no second chances. This is it. This is what the country, the sport has been building towards. And Jesse Marsch was asked if his players are ready to meet the moment, how committed this group is heading into the knockouts.
However you want to talk about the knockout phase and the preparation for it and what our team is ready and or what our team is about is what you see in the Canadian national team is a group that is more committed to each other than just about any team I've ever been a part of. And I think on match day, what they always try to represent is that togetherness, that commitment they have to each other, and that I don't think in all our time together, there's been a better representation of that. At first, I thought Venezuela was a perfect representation, and then you saw the Qatar match, right? You saw a team that played with such quality, with such commitment, with incredible talent. And then when that happened to Ismail Kone, you also saw the empathy and the togetherness and the love that they have for each other. And then still to finish the match the way we did, you saw the concentration and discipline, an idea of everything that I think represents what those group of players are and who they are at the highest level and in the most positive light possible. And so my job as a coach, I think, is always to try to just provide a platform for them to show that, to showcase who they are, what they are. And in a moment like this, that's what I think will be our X factor, is the character and togetherness of the group.
As is the life of a sports reporter, KJ has probably seen Jesse Marsch and this Canadian men's national team more than his family in the last few weeks leading up to this tournament, been embedded with the group. So there's no one better to ask than you, KJ. How ready is Canada for tomorrow?
Well, I feel like they are, and I think everything that Jesse says there is undoubtedly correct. No one's going to counter his points there because it's what they've been building towards, in the 2+ years of the Jesse Marsch tenure. I will just say it's a World Cup knockout game, and there's a lot of pressure on this team. I've only been in this country for the best part of 12 hours, but everybody you speak to is talking about Canada and the opportunity they've got to get through to the next round. They are massive favorites in the eyes of anyone who wants to talk football here in Los Angeles. Massive. Nobody's given anybody else a chance but them. So, and there's a few South African fans around here too, by the way, who feel like they're playing with house money. So I get everything that he is saying. Of course, I do believe that they are ready for this moment. But you got to go out there and deliver, and ultimately they've been given a real opportunity here. The group stages are just wrapping up, as we've talked about in this show already. You look at this, boy, oh boy, you finish it second in a World Cup group and you get South Africa. No disrespect to the opponents, but we're allowed to say this. This is a gift. And, you look at some other groups, Japan, they got Brazil, you think about that right away. You look at, the fact that there's other countries there finishing second, like Morocco, and they get the Dutch. So there's opportunities there that will be very, very difficult in the future that Canada may not get in a lifetime with this men's program. So I agree. I do think it's the X factor. Now's the time to go out there and deliver, Jimmy.
Look, I agree with you, and see with the players as well. When you're at this level, you welcome pressure and you thrive under pressure. That's why you play. You play your domestic football, you have pressure week in and week out. International football, you have pressure week in and week out. These guys will be up for it. This is every single minute of these matches. And it's going to be no different for this national team. Playing in round of 32, an opportunity to get into the round of 16, playing against South Africa, these players must be going absolutely nuts, just chomping at the bits to get onto this pitch right now and get this game going, because I know myself I would. What do you think, Dubs?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're also put in a situation here, as KJ alluded to, a gift and an opponent where you don't want to underestimate them, but at the same time, you see your path clearly to history, to winning a knockout round, to making it to the round of 16. So it's reconciling a little bit where this team has come from in their history, like chip on their shoulder, underdogs, to now needing to fully embrace the fact that they are favorites and coping and embracing the pressure that comes with that. And then the delicate balance between realizing they have been at their best in this tournament when they are chasing something. Chasing the equalizer versus Bosnia, looking to step on the throats of the opponent in Qatar, put them away very, very early. And then the last 20 minutes where they finally showed some urgency versus Switzerland, where it looked like a tie was within reach. So can they go out and can they do that versus South Africa and kill the game very quickly?
So the captain, check. The pressure, check. The commitment, check. But the opportunity, Jesse Marsch spoke about that as well.
In all these moments, as a competitor, whether you're a player or coach, you never allow negativity. You visualize positivity, right? You visualize what you want the game to look like, how you're going to insert yourself, how you're going to respond to difficulty. And, these guys, when you do this for a living, obviously World Cup knockout stages and the fact that we haven't been there, it means that our team hasn't been in this situation before. But we've been in similar situations. And you could ask Alfonso about playing in Champions League finals, right? And you could say that actually the attention and the scrutiny and everything for something like that, or scoring a goal in the semifinal, whatever, is bigger and more ominous than what we're going through tomorrow. But I think in general, what we've tried to do is create an infrastructure around how we play, who we are, an understanding of roles, and then use that for each other, for them to empower each other to go out and be their best. We're gonna experience difficulty in the match. We're gonna experience success. We're gonna have challenges, and the key is that we're ready to rise to all those challenges and be at our best. And for me, when you do this for a living, I live for these moments. I'm sure Alfonso would tell you the same. You live for the moments where you're tested and you can show how good you are. And I think our team is ready for that.
We often turn to KJ when we need a succinct piece of analysis or reflections on the journey of football. 86, St. John's, Qatar, 8-1. This moment, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And KJ, every time they win, should they continue to do so? I'm going to ask you this question because they're always on the precipice of the best thing this men's program has ever done. Can you summarize for us what is at stake for men's football in Canada tomorrow with this match?
It really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this team and for the men's program in this, home World Cup. And no longer a home World Cup for them. We are in the United States, but it's felt like home here sometimes for them. I've spoken to many Canadian fans, some of the Voyagers who got in their cars and drove from Vancouver and are making that journey right now to get to California because of the flights were so extortionate. The prices of the tickets started going down and the flights went up. I'm speaking to many people who are flying to different cities and driving hours to get there, to be there, because they believe in the history that's going to be made here in this game at SoFi Stadium on Sunday. And when Canada Soccer have often been on the brink, particularly this men's team, even under Jesse Marsh and particularly under John Herman in the past, when they've been on the brink of stepping into the unknown and making history, far too often it's gone wrong. It doesn't feel like that anymore. If it does, then obviously it'll be an unbelievable major disappointment. I just feel that there's an opportunity there that they're never, ever going to get back again. And of course, if they get that, then there'll be another opportunity making the last 16 of a FIFA Men's World Cup. So, look, it's going to be special. It's going to be very unique. And it's now time for the best team that this country has ever created to get as far as they can and make the last 16 of the World Cup, Adam.
Christian Jack joining us from Manhattan Beach, California, night before Canada's biggest ever match on the men's side. KJ will be in the building tomorrow. We'll check in with them, hopefully not for the last time, to preview a Canadian match. KJ, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
So Amy, so Jimmy, to follow up on what KJ said about the opportunity, what's at stake tomorrow, you both have represented this country. You've both worn this crest. You know better than others what the players are thinking about tonight, how difficult it is to sleep with such a big occasion on the horizon. I want to start with you, Amy, just to follow up on what KJ said. What is in front of this team tomorrow?
It has to be just about embracing the moment. And we've talked a lot about moments so far, like historic ones, getting the first point, the first win, the first time they've made it to knockouts. But now it's about turning this into a movement. And I think seeing those scenes of the Voyagers, of the support from fans from coast to coast in Canada, the fans that are going to travel down to watch this team play at SoFi Stadium. I think we're at a tipping point in this country right now where you see the support and the entirety of the country galvanized, but it has to be results-based. So I think the players aren't necessarily thinking about that. They're thinking about providing a comprehensive 90-minute performance. We haven't yet seen that from this team, perhaps versus a lesser opponent, the in-game response versus Qatar, but now against a better opponent with everything on the line. If they're able to deliver on that result, then you start to see that movement. And then who knows what the ceiling is for this program for both, not just the men's team, but the women's team and the entirety of the pyramid in Canada. I really do think that it could be that pivotal a moment.
Jimmy Brennan.
Look, I agree with what Dub is saying. You know, we play this game at this level, you know, to win championships, to win trophies, to create history and magical moments throughout your career where people look back and go, hey, do you remember that time when Canada got to the 16? Yeah, well, I was there, or I played in it. These are the moments throughout your career that remain forever. And these players have got an opportunity to create history. And I hope they feel and they know that this whole country right across the board is backing them and supporting them. The amount of times I've gone downtown and I'm out in the streets and you see young kids walking around with Canada jerseys, adults wearing Canada jerseys. I went to the park tonight and kicked the ball around with my son and a few of his buddies. The fields were packed with people playing soccer wearing Canada jerseys. These guys are creating history right now. And if we can get to the 16, it's only going to continue to grow this game. And everybody wants to be a part of this. Everybody wants to be a part of success. And they've got a moment right now to create history. And the whole country's behind them.
All right, I'm officially ready to run through a brick wall. Maybe I'll do that during the commercial break, but it is time for a commercial break. Bafana, Les Rouges. First match of the knockout round. It goes tomorrow from Los Angeles, California. It will be a noon Pacific kickoff in Southern California. And of course, we will have a live post-game reaction from 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern after the match. That's 2 of 32. 30 more nations. We'll more about the other teams competing in the round of 32 when we return.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by bet365.
The game isn't over yet, but Gary just got paid with bet365's early payout when his team went up 2 goals. Now, Gary can't stop celebrating. And honestly, we're not even sure he knows how.
Or forever hold it.
Download the Bet365 app and get paid out early when your team goes up 2 goals.
Here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now?
Who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
For the Win on One Soccer is presented by bet365.
There are only 2 group stage matches remaining before we turn our attention to the knockout round, and this bracket is solidified. Who awaits the winner of South Africa and Canada? Well, that would be the Dutch and Morocco. They will play their knockout round match in Monterrey, and it certainly is a clash of the Titans in that one. Look, the Dutch have the legacy, Amy Walsh. They are often that exciting team in orange that has gone deep. We understand the last piece that's been missing and what the Dutch are chasing, but also Morocco. Canada learned better than anyone last year not to look past this up-and-coming, exciting African side. What do you make of that match? And Canada or South Africa are going to get an incredible opponent, in the round of 16.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of these sides, I mean, Morocco as the perennial kind of dark horse of this World Cup. I mean, somebody forgot to tell Turkey that they were meant to be the dark horse. I think I made that joke last show. It doesn't matter. It's still good. But Morocco finishing in the top 4 last time, I think they have to deliver on that, right, this time. And beating a big opponent, an iconic opponent like the Dutch, would really cement them as a true contender. And now, conversely, the Dutch perennially show up with one of the most talented, one of the deepest rosters. You look at their defense, Van de Ven and Van Dijk. You look at that midfield, how ridiculous it is, Gravenberch and Reinders, and then the attack as well. And everybody that's emerged, especially Brian Brabby, Cody Gakpo as well, but they have yet to prove to the world that they can hang, that they can win this thing. So I think in beating a strong side like Morocco, they might actually do it. But I mean, if this is going to be a fascinating matchup, I think, where both nations are really strong in fullback positions, and they're going to look to accelerate the ball out wide whenever possible. So it might be a little bit of a stalemate, but looking at the way this World Cup has gone, there have been a couple of dead rubbers. There have been a couple of boring matchups. But I think for the most part, this might be, Jimmy, we were talking to some of our friends about the Dutch-Japan contest. For me, one of the top matches so far in this World Cup. I can see this one between Morocco and the Dutch already in the round of 32, first round of knockouts, being a real classic.
Yeah, look, I agree. I mean, if you told me at the beginning, I would say this, of round of 32, this is more like a semifinal for me. When you have the Dutch, who are absolutely stacked, Morocco is one of the best sides to watch right now at this World Cup, coming together, playing in the round of 32. Look, as a neutral and a spectator, we're so lucky to have this match. I think you've got two teams that are very talented. Both teams want to be on the front foot. They both play at a very good tempo. Both create opportunities. The only thing that I'm worried a little bit about Morocco, they had a great game against Brazil. And I think that's where everybody took a step back and went, wow, these guys, this is a good football inside. Was it did concede 2 goals against Haiti. And they weren't the best goals. One was an own goal, one's a little bit sloppy, but still, you cannot allow that to happen against the Dutch. They've got too much firepower up top, Somerville, Gakpo, Depay. The list goes on with the talent that they have. So they have to be organized defensively at the back. Yes, they're going to look to get forward and play in the counterattack. But what I do like about this Morocco side is they more or less said to Brazil, yeah, we respect you, but we're going to go up against you right now. We're going to give you everything that we have. And they went toe-to-toe with Brazil. And don't expect anything different when they play the Dutch. They will be going toe-to-toe. They'll say, yes, we respect you as well, but we're going to give you everything that we got, and we're going to try to dictate the tempo in this match. So I'm expecting a really good game.
Yeah, I think much of it, Jenkins, will be determined in the middle of the park. I mentioned Reinders, De Jong, Gravenberch. I think you have to give the edge there to the Dutch, but 18-year-old Bouhaddi for Morocco, he's one of my favorites so far in this competition. Precocious talent, composure that belies his years. But in the way of which is the better opponent for Canada, if they can make their way through South Africa, I think then I favor Morocco. I think I would prefer Canada versus Morocco. Goes back to the group stage in Qatar, but I think Canada better set up here to face them than they were last time.
Okay, let's flip to the other side of the bracket now. The 16 nations that comprise the other half, Brazil and Japan, Cote d'Ivoire, Norway, co-host Mexico and Ecuador, England and DR Congo, Argentina and Cabo Verde. Let's dive into them a little bit deeper quickly through the remaining. Australia and Egypt, the Swiss and Algeria as it stands. But of course, the talk of the town is Cabo Verde. Their head coach, Bubista, saying, although we had it in our heads, in our minds, and the team's minds, that we could reach this stage after the first few matches, we felt that the team was also very keen to show to the whole world once again, we've shown that we're a small country, that we fight for the things we want to achieve, but for us, nothing is impossible. And Amy Walsh has just fallen completely in love with Cabo Verde and this story. What do you enjoy most about this particular thread, Amy, and how cool it's going to be to see them in the knockouts?
I think before I say anything, it's that it's pure unbridled joy, whether it's Vozinha, the hero in the first draw versus Spain, the heavyweights, the fact they were able to score 2, get a draw again in the second match. Then after their goalless draw with Saudi Arabia, they're watching the final moments of Spain's win over Uruguay, and that result confirmed Cabo Verde finishing not as a best third place team, Jenkins, but as the runners-up in Group H. So it's just an incredible story that I think we didn't really think about in this expanded format. We thought 32-48, much has been made about stats padding, about the lack of jeopardy, about maybe lopsided results. But I didn't, first of all, think about a story like this where I am backing Canada, obviously, as a former Canadian international, but I am backing Cabo Verde for, you know, their 40-year-old goalkeeper, but just the story of this tiny African nation that got there on merit, by the way, beat the likes of Cameroon in order to qualify, and they're absolutely slaying giants in this World Cup. So I'm a Cabo Verde fan, maybe just a 1B below the 1A as an ardent Canadian fan.
Jimmy, I don't want to pour cold water on it because I'm with Amy all the way. What a story. The reward, though, for finishing second in the group is Argentina, who are -600 favorites to go to the round of 16.
Look, let's be honest. The dream is over for them now. The dream is over.
Now, sir.
The dream is over. It's finished for them. Yes, they made history. Nobody expected them to do what they did, and you have to congratulate them. That was fantastic performances, obviously drawing Spain, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia. Now you're playing against Argentina. It's a different level. These players are just going to go out. They're going to enjoy the moment, embrace it. You're playing against Argentina, Messi, the last World Cup winners. What more do you want from a small nation getting to a World Cup? You know, this is going to be their final. Playing against Argentina, they've got no chance. They don't have enough going forward. They're not going to create as many opportunities. They're not going to score goals, and that's been their biggest downfall throughout this. I mean, they qualified with 3 points, 3 draws. They haven't won one, so I don't expect them to beat Argentina. I don't think anybody does. But you got to take your hat off to them and say congratulations for getting where you did. But on this day, it's going to be Argentina's day all the way.
I hope they prove you wrong. Do you think, though, in that tunnel,
there's no chance in a million years.
I know, but do you think in that tunnel, do you think that somebody's tugging on Messi's sleeve and is like, hey, shirt swap, but it's even before they walk onto the pitch?
100%. They're trying to swap his jersey. All game, they'll be just hovering around him. Hey, can I get your jersey?
Amy, what Jimmy is not considering is the fact that we don't know if the worst statue in the history of statues comes with a curse. I'm just saying, right. It might have to physically be demolished if this goes pear-shaped in a few days' time, but it will be a thrill to watch Cabo Verde and the holders of the FIFA World Cup. Okay, time for a break. When we return, we will return our conversation as well to South Africa. Bafana. And who better to talk about South Africa than someone born and raised in Durban? Former CPL and MLS head coach Alan Koch joins the program for a scouting report when we return to Bet365 for the win.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
In Canada, our future stars don't simply show up on the world stage. They are built from the ground up, right here in the heart of our communities.
Here we go. Come on. Oh, lovely through ball there, Isaiah Johnson! Goal for Halifax!
From a childhood dream to the national team.
Jacob Shuffle, good! Yes! He's done it! Canada, on top of the footballing world!
We are Canada, driven by Volkswagen.
And for Canada, BMO.
After 20 years of supporting the game, we're actually going to play in one. Let's go! So what do you need? Precision striker, rock-solid left back?
We need a coin.
For the coin toss? Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. Can I at least flip it? Heads or tails? I'll do that. We're on TV right now. Yeah.
Hey, Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Welcome to This Is Our House, presented by Samsung. And today, our house is in Durban. And when I think of South Africa, I think of the Springboks. I think of the Sharks in the United Rugby Championship. I think of Alan Koch and the Vuvuzela, the Jabulani. Perfect time for him to join the program today, Alan. Former head coach, of course, of FC Edmonton, currently leading the Guelph University Griffins, and is probably one of the busiest people in Canadian soccer right now because of what is happening tomorrow. His native South Africa, his adopted Canada, going head-to-head. Alan, it's wonderful to see you. We thank you for being here. With that setup, I guess let's start with a lot of parallels from this match. There's a lot of Canadian footy supporters refreshing themselves on South Africa. Maybe they haven't really thought about the nation's footballing side in about 16 years, but it's similar because 2010, the World Cup was in South Africa. Fast forward to now, Canada's co-hosting. We're talking about legacy and what it means. I'm wondering what you think of when you reflect back on when South Africa was in Canada's shoes.
Yeah, it's crazy. 2010 feels like yesterday, but obviously it's 16 years ago. Hey? So great to see you again, Adam. Honestly, I think the thing that people will probably remember the most from that World Cup was the Shabalala goal. I think that was iconic. That was a moment for South Africa. It was a moment for Africa. And I think South Africa would love to have done better hosting the World Cup, and they've had to wait 16 years now to ultimately get themselves out of the group, which I'm ecstatic about. I'm obviously ecstatic that Canada's done the same thing. And I don't really know if it's a good thing that South Africa is playing Canada or Canada is playing South Africa, because I'd love to see both teams carry on. I guess some friends of mine have said to me, it's like, well, you're going to win the game. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. One team's going to win, but one team's going to lose. And I'm going to be happy for the one team and I'm going to be really sad for the other one. So excited for the game. Not quite sure what I'm going to feel emotionally, but really, really happy and proud of both national team programs. The progression of the Canadian team and the progression of the South African team is equally impressive.
What would it mean? One of these teams, as you rightfully just mentioned, is going to make some history, arriving in the knockout stage for the first time. So one of South Africa or Canada will be advancing to the round of 16. From a South African lens, what would this mean for them? Because obviously when you host a World Cup, there's all kinds of pressure to perform and transform the sport, the infrastructure, etc. But for the South Africans to have an opportunity here to continue to go forward, what would this mean for the country?
Honestly, it's the Springboks have done amazing things for the country. Obviously, they're the back-to-back World Cup rugby champions, but Bafana really is the team of the people. And to have the football team get to the round of 32 is something that's going to something the country gets behind the sports teams. So we do that same thing in Canada, obviously, but it is something that the people really, really need to be successful. But that's such a strange position for me to be in, Adam, obviously, because I think we all know my connections with the Canadian team and obviously Alfonso and some players, and yeah. I've coached against Jesse, and I've interacted with Jesse and picked his brain, and he's picked my brain. So, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be such a unique game to watch, really.
With these South African connections, friends, family, etc., reaching out to you just to sort of probably get a lay of the land here, I'm wondering, Alan, if there's maybe been a similar reaction to Bafana getting Canada in the knockouts as some Canadian supporters have had drawing South Africa, where Canada, of course, trying to win the group, stay in Vancouver. We understand what was over there, but over there was also Korea Republic, who just by the FIFA World Ranking standard is theoretically a much tougher opponent. I'm wondering if the South African supporters are seeing Canada as someone else in the knockouts for the first time, maybe not at their best, certainly with the confusion around Alphonso Davies. If they're seeing this as a mega opportunity like many in Canada are right now from the opposite perspective.
Yeah, I've done a few interviews in South Africa. I was on the radio there early this morning, and honestly, they're not really saying that much about Canada. I think they're aware of who and what Canada are. I think the only thing that they are saying is they feel fortunate they're not playing Canada in Canada. I think that's something that they're very aware of. Playing Canada in Toronto, playing Canada in Vancouver, they've seen the sea of red. I think the whole world's seen the sea of red. So I think the South Africans feel fortunate they're playing Canada in the States. But I don't think they see Canada as an easy game. They just see it as the next game, where you are right. In Canada, a lot of people are like, well, is South Africa the easy game? I don't think this is going to be an easy game in any shape or form. I think the South Africans showed in the last match against South Korea who they really are. Like they are a team that if they have a structure, which they had in that match, they are incredibly dangerous. Like Maseko, Mofokeng, these are players that can hurt you. And obviously Jesse and his staff, they know about these players, but they're going to have to be aware of them all of the time. Like Mofokeng's technical ability to beat a player and to shoot or look to connect is different level. And he's a player that in South Africa, they're talking about, these are the players that need to leave South Africa to get to a top 5 league in Europe. And we were having those conversations here in Canada a few years ago. It was, okay, Alfonso went and Jonathan's gone, but Tejon's there now. So many of the players have pushed on to top 5 leagues in the world. So that's what's helped us elevate our program here in Canada. I think South Africa still needs that. They haven't quite got to that stage yet. But if Mafokeng, Maseko, these players can have big games and continue to rise and shine in the World Cup, they're going to get those moves.
I would never, ever ask you to predict a winner, but what I do want to ask you is, with the betting lines being so heavily in favor of Canada, there's a variety of reasons for it, I'm sure. I'm not asking you to pick a winner, but I'm asking you to tell me what we should expect tomorrow in terms of a match. You mentioned the identity. This is a very tactical group. They're an intelligent group. They defend very well. They're not going to really score a ton of goals, but what's going to maybe be the difference in the match tomorrow?
It's interesting. Like, I've been sitting on the fence, honestly, Adam, and I'm probably going to sit on the fence with my response here too. But I really think if Alfonso was fit and he was sharp and he was at his absolute peak, honestly, I would think I'd put my neck out and be like, Canada's going to win the game. But without him being at that level of fitness and that sharp, and whether he plays or not, who knows? I genuinely think it's going to be a 50-50 game. I think it's going to be a game of 2 different teams that are going to play probably in 2 different ways. Like, I think the South Africans actually probably want Canada to have the ball so Canada can try break them down. I think that's probably one of our deficiencies from a Canadian perspective is we're great at pressing, we're great with intensity, but we do struggle to break teams down if we have the ball all of the time. The South Africans love to have the ball though, but I actually think they're actually better right now with the group that they have without the ball too. So it's going to be very, very interesting. I think within the first 5-10 minutes, we're going to have some very clear ideas of tactically how both teams are going to embrace the game.
Alan, it's been too many years since we've heard your dulcet tones on our airwaves. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for giving me an excuse to bring out the Eddie's jersey over my shoulder. It brings a smile to my face every time I see it. Great to connect with you, and enjoy the roller coaster that I'm sure tomorrow will be as a football coach and a football supporter.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
And bringing back in a former colleague of Alan Koch, Jimmy Brennan, Amy Welsh, as we continue to discuss South Africa. And Amy, the question is, we heard a pretty good scouting report from Alan there. What's the biggest danger that they're going to pose Canada? There's the behind the scenes, the pressure that surrounds the match, but then there's the actual football. As you look at this opponent, what is maybe going to keep you up at night tonight?
It's definitely going to be on the break. It's the transitional moments. But if Canada plays the way that they can, like, I don't see Canada underestimating South Africa, even if it has been framed as a bit of a gift into the round of 16. But it's, can they frustrate Canada? And can they keep them out of the game? Can they hang on till halftime and then it's 0-0 and then they kind of surge their way into the match the way that they surged into the group stage? When they got that equalizer versus Czechia, they had a renewed confidence versus South Korea, where Maseko got loose and they looked dangerous. And South Korea was unable to deal with the intensity of this team. So Canada's going to be up against it. But as I alluded to earlier in the show, if Canada can play relentless, aggressive, high-tempo football, translate that into chance creation, ruthlessness in the box, smother them, force South Africa into mistakes the way that we saw them play versus Mexico. That type of pressure on the team, I think that Canada can capitalize, and if they can punish them early, then they can take them out of the game. But the longer that South Africa hang on, and to your question, Adam, that's what worries me a little bit. If Canada can't put them away early and they have the opportunities, that allows South Africa back into the game.
Jimmy?
I just think Hugo Broos is a very good manager. I like the way he adapts to certain situations. He looks at the opponent and decides what formation he's going to play, whether it's a 4-3-3, a 3-5-2, what personnel would suit that system against the opposition. He's very, very tactical. This team is very disciplined. And Hugo Broos, that's what he does. He wants his team to be very disciplined, very organized. They play with a lot of energy. Now, the problem with South Africa as well, they struggle to score goals. They get in good areas, but they cannot score goals. They've only scored 2 goals in 3 games in this group stage. And that is one of their weaknesses, is scoring goals. So for me, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, we need to be on the front foot. We need to match the work rate. And if we can control the game, dictate the tempo, I think Canada's going to be in a very good position. They're not a big threat going the other way. They do have pace with their counterattack, but scoring is what South Africa's biggest problem is scoring goals at the moment.
Okay, 22 starters tomorrow, 2 benches full of people who think that they can become a hero. We have tasked Jimmy Brennan with picking one, the TELUS player to watch. TELUS, proud to partner with soccer organizations across Canada, helping to raise the game from grassroots to elite levels. Jimmy, you've gone to Burnley for the forward Lyle Foster.
I went to Burnley. Look, he played in the first match, but again, talking about the South African manager, he does change his team up often. And Lyle Foster, for me, is a fantastic striker. He's very quick. He's got a good football IQ. He's played for Burnley over the last number of years, got lots of pace, can score goals, can assist. He is one to watch for me. He can be a massive threat if he has provided service. So if he does end up starting, I think he's going to be a player that they're going to have to keep an eye on.
For me, I think it's probably Mokoena in the middle of the pitch. I think he has the ability to influence the match a little bit more. And Jimmy mentioned Foster only played in that first matchup. And you mentioned Bruce, Jimmy. He went with a 3-5-2 in that first match, like inexplicably, because this team looks a lot better in a 4-2-3-1. And I look to Mokoena to really dictate things for South Africa.
Okay, so Canada, South Africa, noon local time tomorrow at Los Angeles Stadium, pardon me. It's not the only football match tomorrow, mind you. CPL, of course, is back. A big win for the Wanderers yesterday over Pacific. Cavalry, through the monsoon that we are forecasting here in Calgary, will be hosting Supra at 5 p.m. local time shortly after the full-time whistles in LA. We will have a Canada Day doubleheader, Hamilton Stadium, Forge in Vancouver. The Wanderers on short rest will welcome Atletico Ottawa, looking to continue this little winning streak that they are starting to put together. One final break. When we return, the South African scouting report, check. We'll turn our attention to Canada and some prop bets to keep an eye on tomorrow as the knockout round begins. The World Cup Finals. This is Bet365 for the win.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by General Mills. For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Turkey Farmers of Canada.
We were there for your first game together. The day you taught him the rules and the answer for every question. We've been there for the good times and a few moments we don't talk about. And now,
who won the most Canadian Classics?
It's a passion you can share. And we're just happy we could be there. 20 years, and we're still growing. Together.
Hey Hey neighbor, meet Walmart Plus, the new membership that does delivery differently. I'm talking unlimited free same-day delivery, free shipping, and no order minimum. And it comes with a Crave subscription too. Yeah, it's like a 2-for-1. Try it free for 30 days. Walmart Plus.
Canada are really pressing here. Oh, what a move. That is a quality ball. Now the run into the box.
It.
A player Mike bet on just missed an open net tap-in and got subbed off.
I could have scored that in jeans.
Mike doesn't know it yet, but thanks to Bet365's sub-on play-on,
The net was wide open.
his prop bet rolls over to the fresh leg sub coming on. So if the sub scores, Mike still wins.
False alarm, people. My bet's still good.
If your player gets subbed, your bet plays on.
For the Win on One Soccer is brought to you by Samsung.
Not sure if you guys have heard, but there's a big football match tomorrow. Canada, South Africa, round of 32. One final reminder that it begins noon local in Los Angeles, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We will have a new episode of Bet365 for the Win from 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific. We hope we will be discussing a win, and perhaps if we get to that point, it will be because of one of the following players, Jimmy Brennan. Prop bets brought to you by Bet365. Canadians to score. Jonathan David seems like an obvious choice. He's a plus 175 anytime goal scorer. Alphonso Davies at plus 300 seems absolutely ludicrous to me unless they know something we do not. But that's my take. Jimmy, who's going to score tomorrow?
I'm going to go with, I think Richie Laryea is going to get a goal tomorrow.
Off the board choice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to recover. Amy?
Totally off the board. I was going to
Yeah.
say Promise David, just given his strike rate. But we went to break, I think, with the image of Kyle Larin with his fingers in his ears. And I think this is a guy who has shown up on great club form, but has shown he can do it in country's colors and didn't play that well versus Switzerland. I look to him to rebound and get one for Canada.
Promise David to start. Promise David to score for me. Next one, total goals in the match. The line, 2.5. Over would pay plus 120. Under, a cagey affair, as we've outlined with South Africa. Amy, that might be their bread and butter, minus 150.
I'm going to go over here. I see this being Canada maybe gets on the board early. I think ideally that would be a great start. Maybe get up to 2-0 at one point, and then South Africa pushes back, but Canada hangs on to win 2-1. So that's over 2.5. I'm going with the over.
Jimmy?
I'm going with the over as well. And I think it's going to end up 3-1 Canada.
3-1 Canada. Jimmy's feeling confident. Okay, a
And
bit of an
Richie
obscure
Laryea
one, but
gets
I personally adore playing some corners. How many of them will there be? We're going to set the line at 9. Exactly 9 plus 650. Under 9 plus 110. Over plus 120. Jimmy?
Over. I think there's going to be more than 9 corners in this match. 100%.
This is total or this is for Canada?
This is total for the match.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've seen some games, and I know it was obviously Qatar 2 players down, and we were up to 20, just Canada. So I'm definitely going to take the over. Canada loves to attack via those wide channels, so I think they generate a lot of opportunities off of corner kicks.
Okay, don't have the lines for this one, but I just want to generally ask. I know we're hearing 2-1 from Amy, so Jimmy doesn't really get a vote because he thinks this is going to be 3-1. Extra time or 90 minutes? Is it going to be enough, Amy, or are we going the distance tomorrow?
I've heard a lot of people talk about extra time, but if it's going to go the way that I have predicted, which is the way to Canada to have success is to kill the game early, so I'm going to say 90.
I guess, Jimmy, they could score 2 goals in extra time, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, per se.
It's going to be finished in 90 minutes.
Will you both hate me if I tell you that I'm seeing penalties tomorrow?
Yes.
I'm not ready for that mentally.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
as
me
I
too.
look into the crystal ball, penalty shootout written all over. Guatemala redemption.
Oh, no.
I'm excited for it. Okay.
No,
As
I
we
like the
depart,
redemption arc, but no penalties. No.
No penalties at all. Amy, we've heard Jimmy's compassionate speech. We don't have time for a full one from you, but if you were to tell one word or one thing to the players as we say goodbye, what would you tell them before they step on the pitch tomorrow?
Just go out there and express yourselves. Just be you, be unabashedly you, and know that everybody supports you in doing that, and you're at your best when you're fully expressing yourself on the pitch.
I'm at my best when I have Amy Walsh and Jimmy Brennan on the show with me. This has been Bet365 for the win. Canada, enjoy every minute of tomorrow, the stress, the ups and the downs, and fingers crossed from all of us for a big victory. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the footy tomorrow, and we will see you 7 p.m. Eastern time for a brand new episode of Bet365 for the win.